Welcome everybody to MogTalk episode 213. My name is Frosty. If you are unfamiliar with MogTalk, it is a show based around the Final Fantasy XIV community, discussing everything from Chocobo Racing to Savage Raiding. And today is our fabled Chocobo Racing episode. We have three amazing guests. I am balancing this helmet on this mic, doing my best to keep it on my head. I am so sorry, but let me have our guest talk so you know who they are. We'll go clockwise. We're actually going to start with our newest guest, Gray. Gray, tell everybody who you are.
Hi, I am Gaius Gray. I created the guide to Chocobo Racing that maybe you guys are familiar with, maybe you're not. I've been playing Final Fantasy since 2.0. I've been Gaius Gray for most of the time, but I briefly switched over to Mitsuki Gray when the Aura came out because they're very cute. Mm-hmm. But now I'm back to my roots, and I'm a cat boy.
Perfect. All right, and Shili, you haven't been on for a little while, but you've been on a few times now. Tell everybody who you are, just in case they don't know you.
I'm Shili Maru. I'm on Excalibur. I've been playing since 2.02 in terms of Chocobo Racing. I've also been Chocobo Racing since it came out. Yep, I'm a pioneer.
Nice.
There's dozens of us.
All right, and finally, our one fabled guest that I told Layla and many others that they would be on the show if we did one for Chocobo Racing.
They forced me to go on.
They forced you to go on.
Yeah, I've been coerced. I'm Chyea. I'm also on Gilgamesh. I am an achievement hunter, like the couple of us that are left, and I've been Chocobo Racing since it came out. And apparently, I know a lot about Chocobo Racing, so I was invited to the show. So here I am.
There you go. All right.
I mean, I'm excited. I love Chocobos and racing. So.
I'm very excited to have everybody on this show because, to be honest with you, when we did the incentive for this, I was like, yeah, if we meet it, that'd be cool. I guess I can go find. There's probably at least 3 people out there who could talk about Chocobo Racing.
At least 3 people.
And we found 3 people. I will let you know the hardest one to find was Gray. Who is
Gray wrote the book on Chocobo Racing. Like everyone who Chocobo races, usually finds his blog, and like we all listen to his gospel. So
yeah.
Wait. So yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I am kind of a hermit. So it was hard to find.
Yeah, I had to go old school and ask your FC members while making a character on Gilgamesh about how to find you. Because you did respond to my Discord invite when I sent it to you the first time, so I'm a little bit upset, but
yeah, I just didn't know.
It's okay. But yeah, the only real good Chocobo Racing guide out there from 2015 was made by Gaius Gray, and so that's why we brought him on. And he has a picture of me just as his avatar here. It's the same.
I just didn't want you to feel alone, Frosty.
I appreciate it. Because when I'm talking about Chocobo Racing, usually I feel alone. So most people are familiar with Chocobo Racing as a concept in Final Fantasy XIV games. And people who are around during the beginning, when Gold Saucer was released, are kind of familiar with it. I don't know how familiar new players are than just knowing it exists somewhere. Maybe they tried it. Can somebody, who feels the most confident about giving the history of Chocobo Racing in Final Fantasy XIV? Gaius? Great. Do you feel
sorry? I apologize. I got distracted because somebody in your chat mentioned that we used to be in the same FC.
Oh, okay. that sometimes that'll happen.
What was the question again? I'm so sorry.
The history of Final Fantasy XIV Chocobo Racing. If you had to sum that up in any way, tell everybody who might not be familiar with what Chocobo Racing is in Final Fantasy XIV, when it was introduced, and I guess how it was introduced.
Well, it was added with the Gold Saucer, which makes sense. The Gold Saucer was based off of Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII, Chocobo Racing was probably one of the bigger parts of that. And at the start, it was sort of difficult to get into. You had to invest a great deal of MGP to get good Chocobos. You didn't really start making a lot for a while, and I think a lot of people who, even people who are just in for farming MGP, just ended up doing TTT instead because it's easier. You don't have to pour a bunch of investment into it. Square probably noticed this, probably got some feedback about it, and in patch 3.25, I think it is, they made a bunch of big changes to it, made it a lot more accessible, like expanded the challenge, like the weekly challenges associated with it, made everything cost less, made progression faster. And I think I forget which patch where they added like cross server, basically integrated it with Duty Finder and allowed you to do it with people on other servers, which was kind of nice because you never got anybody otherwise.
Yep.
Now you get like one person every once in a while, and I forget when they did that, but basically since then they haven't changed it since 3.25. It's been in its current state since then.
I'm doing my best, guys. I'm going to do everything I can to keep this on my head as much of the show as I can. But yeah, Chocobo Racing, I think, it did get an update recently that we all know about, right? The update where they stopped that timer that was visible to everybody when you first queue in. But that's about it. I will say and add this to it, that back in 2018? I went to the media event, and one of my questions was to... God, you freaking helmet. All right, no, it's good. It's good. All right. It's fine.
Oh, we've lost it.
Sorry. So back in 2018, I did do a interview with Yoshida, and I asked him, what about Chocobo Racing? Where is it? What's going on? When we're going to see updates? And he said the one guy who made it all, there's one guy. Yeah, it was one person, moved on to developing raids, which was funny enough. Around the same time that Omega was coming out, and we had Alpha in the race. I don't know if it was,
can't be coincidence.
Yeah, it had to be a coincidence, possibly, but I think that maybe
secret lore of like AlphaScape, like DeltaScape, SigmaScape, the secret.
Yeah, I would assume that he had some saying. He probably was like, "Yeah, Alpha, bring in a Chocobo. I did all this work for you by myself." For something that's not used anymore. I am curious. Have you seen anybody in recent Chocobo races at all? I mean, I don't know if you yourself have went into a recent Chocobo race, but have you seen anyone in there?
It's been a while since I've been a Chocobo racer.
Okay.
Once in a while, you see people queue up. And back when it first came out, it was pretty popular. You have like 5 or 6 people per match, queuing up together. So it's also done into rankings. So like your Chocobo can't queue, or it's not optimal to queue for the lower rankings.
Right.
So a lot of times when you run into new players will not run into you if you're an experienced player, just because they're in different ranking queues. At least that's how it used to work. I'm not sure how it works.
I'm pretty sure.
No, it still works with ratings.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, and I think like I did some Chocobo racing so I can get the footage last night, and it was exactly the same as I remember it. There was like it doesn't feel different. It doesn't feel like anything has changed. It feels like everything's pretty much the same. Where it is almost a laggy Mario Kart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of.
There's tons of like gimmick items and stuff. It's like Mario Kart. That's actually an apt analogy. I wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah. It feels like that's the case. It's just you play it and you're like, how am I going to mess up this other person? And how can I make their life worse? I would like to do a little bit of. Do you remember what you did to make everybody's lives worse? Did you have offensive abilities, or did you have like defensive abilities?
It's primarily items that are offensive, although there's a few abilities that are also like mildly disruptive. Mm-hmm. Probably the most sort of high-profile one is the Briar Caltrops. When you use it, it makes a little briar around you. Briars, like mechanics. And basically, the longer chocobos around you stand in that, the more stamina they lose. But there's also things that like slow people down, things which like make their stamina burn faster.
I think it's Bacchus Water, the one that stamina goes faster.
Yeah,
I remember the name.
And Bacchus's Water used to be a complete joke because it used to not like increase your stamina. It basically used to force you to sprint. And the state of the game is such that you build your chocobo so that you can basically sprint the entire race. So
yeah,
it was like, oh, thanks. Now I can take my hand off the keyboard for 15 seconds.
yeah. That's how I play. I do Briars, and so my goal is, as soon as the match starts, to get up in the big crowd with everyone else and just hit Briars right at the beginning and try to get as many people thorned up as I can. And then sometimes they run out of stamina before they can't sprint the whole race, and it works. But I don't know. Yep. I don't play against people anymore, so it's really hard to tell.
Well, some of the NPCs are just as hard as people. Some of the NPCs just
yeah. Well, who is it? Tejo? Who's the really, really tough one? Is it random?
Starbreaker.
Starbreaker.
Okay.
Yeah, Chyea is pretty. Will finish pretty high, but Starbreaker is commonly considered like the hardest one, and like the one you build around if you want to like, do a farming chocobo.
I love that you just knew his name like right away. It's Starbreaker.
Yeah,
all of them. You guys should see my spreadsheet.
Do you have a personal
spreadsheet? I was working on like when I was doing the guide, and it just has so many different random things.
Mm-hmm.
So who's the weakest? Who's the slowest chocobo racer?
I mean, it depends on which like thing you're in, like which tier. Every tier has like a set of different enemies, and I think they all have like priests.
Oh, I was gonna say like the slowest and like the baby ranks, like the babyest.
The baby chocobo racers.
Oh, I don't know. The biggest thing that I like tried to document back when I was playing this game a bunch was like what abilities they have, because some of them have Choco Steel, and because they are AI entities, they are like instant with how fast it is. So like if you're ever in front of those guys, you need to just use your item right away, or else you're gonna lose it.
Yeah, no, that's all ringing bells to me, man. So I guess the real question here is what happened to Chocobo Racing? It obviously didn't take off, right?
Well, people just ran out of content. Once you're done with your chocobo, you've had enough. Like there's just nowhere else to go. Something that really bothered me from the very start is that you actually don't use your chocobo for your chocobo race. You're using the gold saucer chocobo, which is completely different. So like you don't get to use your combat chocobo as the racer.
I mean, you can customize it in like all the same ways, but the way the colors work is so RNG. Like,
you basically
can't make your own color. Whenever you purchase a breeding permit, you roll a random color, and like you can breed that each chocobo you get from those permits by one time, and it's a 50-50 shot to get each parent's color. So it's very hard to control what color you want.
And then you get stuck with like a Gubu gray chocobo, and you're like, no, I want any other color.
Yeah, I'm stuck in like seawater blue or something for my like inbreeding.
I got a pretty good color that I'm happy with, but it wasn't what I wanted. I ended up with plum purple. It's like a really dark purple. But I had like in my line, in my family tree of my racing chocobos, I ended up with like a Roland Berry chocobo, and that's like my favorite color in the game. So I was like, I'm gonna take this all the way. And then when I actually had it all the way up until my pedigree like 9, when I was trying to perfect all my stats, and then the one that came out perfect took the breeding covering color and not mine, and I was like, guess it's purple.
It's truly sad.
Maybe
we should explain like chocobo breeding is actually pretty in depth, and like there's a whole system with it. So we should probably explain.
Please go ahead. Go and explain the breeding.
Okay, so once your chocobo becomes powerful enough in the chocobo racer, you can retire it, and then once you retire it, you get a certificate with all its stats, all its abilities, and its color, and its special passives, and then you can use that breeding certificate to breed it 9 times. It's 9 times, right?
Yeah, it's 9 times.
Yeah,
9 times. 9 times. So generally, the best way to go is you level up a chocobo that you really like, get good stats, then you try and breed with another chocobo that you leveled up, get good stats, and then its pedigree goes up. So if it starts at pedigree 1, you breed 2 pedigree 1s together and make a pedigree 2. You keep doing that until you get to pedigree 9. I can't say pedigree this many times. And then every time you go up pedigree, your maximum stats increase by 40. I want to say 40.
Yeah, it's 40 per like pedigree level and also 40 per star. So the star ratings too factor into that.
So then you get to a maximum of 300 per stat. Acceleration, speed, stamina, and then once you have a pedigree 9 with full 300, you get the maximum 300, and you fed it properly and you ranked it up, you have a perfect chocobo. But it's a long grind to get there. And back when it was first introduced in 2.51, the breeding window took 18 hours. So you had to wait, every time you bred a chocobo, you had to wait basically a full day to see how good your next chocobo was. And if it was trash, you just toss the little chocobo in the dumpster. You just put them down in the dumpster. Okay, let's try again.
I feel bad about that.
Hey, 18 hours to get busy, lay an egg, and have it hatch and grow up is pretty efficient.
Pretty fast.
Okay, it's true. They're busy. They're busy chocobos, but it was still it still felt bad when you're like, okay, I really hope that RNG breaks my way, and then you look at a chocobo and it's a little disabled, crippled boat, and you're like, oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's like putting down horses and stuff. It's just, it's not great.
It's also 50-50 on the ability. So if you get one whose color you like, but its ability is bad, and then you get the color you like, but not the ability you like, and it's just eh.
Yeah, and you're, go on.
Go.
I was just gonna say that the only way to have more than one ability, right, is to breed. So
that's true.
The one that you get through breeding, you can't change it. So
yep, and you can only use it once.
Yeah, so it sucks because like with getting the color, like we were talking about, is you might get a color you really like, but then it didn't pass down the ability, and then you're just like, dang it, and then you have to keep breeding.
You have to keep going. But nowadays, since they updated Chocobo Racing back in Heavensward, it only takes 20 minutes to breed. So you can go through a whole generations of chocobos in a day if you're adamant about it. So getting a perfect chocobo isn't that bad. Anyone listening that's new, you can get a perfect chocobo probably within 2 weeks. Probably just on casual play.
2 weeks of 8 hours a day, or what are we talking about?
No, maybe a couple hours. I actually don't know how fast the leveling process is now. I think it's pretty fast. So you can get a chocobo cycled maybe once every 2 hours.
Okay. So I'm gonna be honest, the breeding is a lot of artificial ways to keep the length of the content going. It's
also a customization thing, right? It's a way to get people, the color that they like, the special ability that they like, all that sort of things. I like the breeding part of it.
Okay.
I think
it does frankly seem out of place to me. Final Fantasy XIV as overall, I think does very good and not artificially expanding its content, not gating things behind heavy RNG. It does seem out of place the way Chocobo Racing works to me right now, but I definitely agree.
It's very, very... there are a lot of RNG. That's just MMOs. It's just did I get my gear this week? Those kind of things. But this one is okay, so once I didn't get my perfect Chocobo. I got my near perfect Chocobo, and I'm like, God damn, I'm good with near perfect, I think. At the end of it.
Well, especially if you missing a star in a stat that doesn't matter, like acceleration. You're good.
Acceleration doesn't matter?
It matters very little, I would say.
Does the only thing start you at full acceleration? Is that the reason why it doesn't matter?
Yeah. They're basically most people this is sort of a high level thing maybe. But the way most people farm if they want to farm MGP out of Chocobo Racing is they do Sogly Road because it's the shortest one. And then they build a Chocobo with either Head Start or Super Sprint. And they just and then they just basically end they start in first, and then they abuse the fact that Sogly is so short and you can sprint through it, and it has a stamina pad on it too, which gives you some stamina back when you walk over it. And so you just kind of sprint through the entire race and never not be in first.
Truthfully, I would guess that Sogly Road is played 10 times as much as the next.
Oh yeah. Whenever I always queue random, but whenever I am getting matched with a person again and again, it's always Sogly Road.
Yeah.
Always.
We actually didn't mention, but the three courses from shortest to longest are Sogly Road, which is the shortest, Costa del Sol, which is the medium one, and I think it's East Stroud or South Stroud? South Stroud.
Tranquil Pass is what it's called, but
Tranquil Pass,
I couldn't tell you either. It's either East or South.
I think it's South Stroud, and it's by far the longest. But since you want to farm fast and the Super Sprint build is the most optimal, everyone goes for Sogly Road.
Yeah, they did. In 3.25, they did change it so that the course length does influence your MGP payout. So it's not as.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, you get a little bit more for Tranquil Pass, but I think people are still just more comfortable with Sagali, so they just do it more. Like, it's easier to build a Chocobo that's good there. I like to random, so I try to build my Chocobo so that they can race in any of the courses. But yeah, Tranquil is probably the most hated one.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
We also didn't talk about Chocobo challenges, which I love doing them, and some of them are pretty difficult.
Oh yeah, those were a nice addition.
What are you talking about challenges? Did I miss that completely?
Well, there's I think there's 15. So there's 15 special events, special courses that you go in and you have to meet a certain requirement to beat. Like sometimes you have to get first, sometimes you have to beat these 2 racers or 3 racers.
I think I have done them. I just don't remember them.
Yeah, and at the end of beating one, you get a bunch of MGP. It's a lot of MGP actually, and I think it's the race barding. I want to say that is the final reward, which is
I got it. Yeah, I got that.
And there's sort of a very important caveat with the Chocobo challenges. They are influenced by MGP payout modifiers. So if you have an FC buff that increases, if you want to beg your FC to have those up when you do all the challenges, you get a ton more if you do that.
100K.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what I did to. I can't remember. There was some mount. Maybe it was the Finir mount when it first came out. That was one of the first ones that was Gold Saucer, right?
Yep, that was $1 million.
I think it was the first one.
Yeah. And I think that I was farming to get that, and so that's kind of how I built up to do it.
Yeah, that was actually why I got more into Chocobo breeding was to be able to finish all the challenges because it was just so much MGP, and I was gonna do it anyway. So I was like, okay, well, might as well do it. Yeah.
So if I had to guess, if they're going to expand on Chocobo Racing, it would probably first start with adding more challenges because they don't seem too hard to make. I mean, they're still hard to make in terms of getting people interested, but challenges are always interesting, and putting a reward behind them, shiny race party, people would go in there pretty much. And if you need a good Chocobo to finish the challenges, then people will do the rest of the content.
They could do a leaderboard like they do with PvP.
I mean, the Gold Saucer, every other competition has a Gold Saucer leaderboard, like the Triple Triad. I don't know if
Oh, yeah.
Mahjong has leaderboards, but the Triple Triad tournaments do have leaderboards.
So it has a ranking system.
Triad and Verminion, doesn't it?
Verminion does.
It does have. Oh my god, I just remembered Verminion.
Verminion is the deadest of the dead Gold Saucer content.
Yes. Really dead.
I think I did Lords of Verminion twice and then have never picked it up again.
What I find amusing
I'm not an RTS person.
What I find amusing is that the Verminion minions you get from the art books, like the art books and the they all have special abilities. They all have really good abilities. If there's any Lord of Verminion watchers, please correct me. But I believe that the metagame is wind up Yotsuyu from the Stormblood art book as the best Verminion.
Oh gosh.
What I did...
Pay to win! Pay to win!
I used the PvP minion, the Finir minion.
Oh,
and I just spam that and just use that the entire time, and it works out.
I haven't played forever, but I remember Wind Up Hildebrand being a good one, but I honestly can't remember the metagame.
I went back and I was like, let me figure out this is good MGP. I've never done the tournament or anything, and I went through and I did it. There's about 3 or 4 people who do it every single week. I think that they have the tournament. I don't remember. But there was 3 or 4 really dedicated, hard studied Verminion players out there.
They're the true heroes. They're
out there.
They're the real fans.
Mm-hmm. The content exists. There's people out there that do it still.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I guess so.
Yeah,
like us.
Yeah, like us.
Yeah.
So Chocobo Racing. All right. So when did it just it almost feels like it died off by Heavensward, right? It didn't really last more than a few months.
I think it mainly just dies off because people don't need MGP for things. It came back for a bit during the Make It Rain event and when there was that car mount or whatever.
Oh, the regalia.
For it, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I think probably the biggest issue with everything in the Golden Saucer is that there just isn't much point in MGP a lot of the time if you have what the specific things you want out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of something to do if you have nothing else to do, I guess.
If there was a leaderboard and other people who took it seriously, I think there'd be, absolutely more activity in it.
Hell yeah!
Like new Chocobo mounts or new Chocobo like customizations or something that people could give to their Chocobos. I think that it would still be out there, but I guess they're just not developing rewards for it. I don't know.
Yeah. The main reason I go back and do my races like ever anymore is usually when I get interested in doing squadron stuff again, because you can get like special squadron from Gold Saucer challenge log completion, and there's like several Chocobo Racing challenge logs. So whenever I've been trying to get this freaking Ara squadron. It's the pirate one. I don't know if anyone knows what I'm talking about. She wears like a pirate hat.
I know
She's
what you're talking
special.
about.
She's a special squadron, unique model, and I've been trying to get her ever since Squadrons came out. I still don't have her, and like every week I'll do my freaking challenge logs, and I'll do my Gold Saucer, Chocobo Racing, and I never get her.
You get that snowman Lalafell instead, and you throw him out the door.
Yeah.
Oh.
I've gotten the Lalafell snowman like 3 times. So.
You know what? I forgot Squadrons existed as well.
Squadrons are actually good value. People should be leveling their squadrons.
Yeah, Squadron's actually really good. No joke.
Yeah,
I mean,
they are excellent.
Is it good for like what? What's the benefit? I mean, you don't really. It's not fast for leveling, is it?
If you level your squadron and you send them out on their weekly mission, and you get I forget what they're called, like the manuals. So, like for example, the rationing manual. It's the equivalent of a like rank 3 FC buff.
Yeah, for yourself, and you can just use it whenever you want. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if your FC's falling behind, you're okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, they stack, so you can do it with the FC. Yeah.
Okay.
At least I'm pretty sure. Maybe Shili was winning, but I think like the Gold Saucer one stacks. Does it not?
I don't know. I know sure. I know food doesn't stack. Like it doesn't extend. But yeah.
We'll see. Somebody in chat will find out and tell us, I'm sure.
Plus, they give you gathering and crafting scripts and materia just doing out the weekly missions as well, and that's just a good passive way to get materia. It takes like 30 seconds.
Think of them the same way as retainers. Like I'll just send them out. They come back and they bring me things.
You guys are gonna be mad at me about my activity with my retainers. But no, okay, so Chocobo Racing, it just turned into one of those like cool little things, which the main reason that I think it's like upsetting, like some content gets introduced and then it dies off. There's lots of different content that happens with but Chocobo Racing. Nanamo's there being the star of the show.
She just wants to be there.
That's fair. But Chocobo Racing, it's like a core Final Fantasy piece of content. I don't feel like it should get less attention than things like Squadrons or like other things that were introduced with Final Fantasy XIV. I feel like Chocobo Racing should be one of those things that's just like part of your weekly stuff if you are a Final Fantasy XIV player. I don't know. It felt weird to see it kind of fade away. Do you guys disagree with that?
I don't.
Yeah, I wish it was more involved for sure. No, that's all I was going to say.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. Like I almost played it because I just thought it was fun, and I have stopped since because there's just not anything to do anymore except like usually win against like one other player and 6 other NPCs.
Do you get excited when you see like a name in there that's not an NPC?
A little bit, yeah.
What's Chocobo's name in Gold Saucer?
I've gone through a few of them that are perfect just because I wanted to try a few different things, but my current one is Takiro.
Takiro.
Okay.
And Shili, what's yours?
Mine's Dream, after famous Minecraft YouTuber Dream. I actually changed my Chocobo's name to that because I was just like, yeah, I just like Dream. He's cool.
That is hilarious. Didn't he get in some drama recently or something?
I have no idea.
Okay, we won't.
But before my Chocobo's name was Dream, it was first name Good, last name Lord. So Good Lord was.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think mine was Snowball or something. I can't really remember. I even though I raced with him yesterday, I don't remember what his name is because my
His
name
name-
shows
his name
up.
is- His name is Frosty.
His name's Frosty. If it shows-
Yeah, your name's Chocobo. Yeah.
Yeah.
It means your Chocobo's name is Frosty.
So you named it after me. It's an apt name for a chocobo.
I'm just one of those weird people. Like in Monster Hunter, my cat's name is Little Frosty. Like I'm so unoriginal
Frosty.
and horrible.
So, I mean, you have a name and you like it. It's fine.
Yeah. All right, so there is some issues I think besides people just kind of get the incentives and rewards, kind of putting it down. The game mode itself has a lot of latency issues, and it's kind of on the rails, which I think kind of made people not as happy. But hasn't Chocobo Racing always been kind of on the rails? Is there like a game where it wasn't? Besides actual Chocobo Racing, the game, hasn't it
I
always
mean, it
been
was
that?
certainly on the rails in FF7.
Yeah.
Like, if anything, it was even more on the rails. Like I think you could do very little. You could only like encourage your Chocobo or something. I don't know. It's been a while.
Yeah, I think give it carrots or something, and like something like that. I can't remember. It's been a while. Someone in chat might know, but like I think most of the time it's kind of on the rails, which is fine. It's just they gave you actions to jump and move kind of side to side, and that delay. You've experienced it where you jump for that chest, you go straight through it, and you're like, "What the fuck?"
It's
Right?
it's
Yeah.
pretty funny the way you describe it. You say on the rails, because whenever I try to explain like how Chocobo Racing works to people who might be trying to get into it, or like they do one race, and then they never race again. Just kidding.
Yeah.
But when I explained it to them, I explained it as like a lane system. So like we say rails, it reminds me of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like you press D to go right or whatever, or on your controller you go right.
Mhm.
And it's like you're shifting from this lane to this lane. And then the
Yep.
lag that you experience from like when you go through chess sometimes, it's usually latency where you didn't change lanes fast enough, so it didn't register you're like it there, but
Yeah.
you're like kind of in between, so you're just not, you know what I mean?
I think server
Yeah,
ticks
no,
are
that's how I
affecting it too. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. The lanes analogy is also one I use in my guide because that is basically how it works.
Mhm.
If you're having trouble jumping through boxes, generally the advice is just jump earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But if there's strafing involved, then it is harder because
It doesn't
basically
like register.
they wanted to add player collision in the game, and the only way they could do that is by making movement a lot more server side than like the client side movement in the rest of the game is.
Mhm.
So that's why it is laggy.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do you think so? This is a question because I've never really went in and investigated it. But if you try to cut corners and stuff, does that work?
Yep, makes you faster.
Okay. Because I never knew if that actually did anything or it was just a big waste of time because they're always kind of going through this curve. But all right. Do you think?
Yeah, that's my go-to way to pass Starbreaker is just to cut the curves better than them.
Damn, that Starbreaker so fast.
Yeah. Do you think it would be good to just make that apparent that is on the rails and just have like the lines like there? You can see
Like
your
visible?
Chocobo transferring.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, that would be a bad idea. Maybe when they have the flying courses eventually.
Should we mention that?
The community was looking for, because maybe we can crowdsource this, because I know it exists, and now
Okay.
it's bothering me too.
I looked for so long I couldn't find anything.
So before the show started, we were looking for a picture, and I think it was on a live letter of them showing a flying chocobo screenshot, and I think it was on a live letter. So if anyone in chat knows what we're talking about, of them adding new courses, there's a picture of like a flying chocobo race, and we think it's from a live letter back in Heaven's Gate.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's bothering me in my soul. I need to find it.
I'm so sorry that I brought it up.
No, because I remember it too. Yeah. And if someone can find that and dig it up, just ask for permission in chat for a permit, and then we will allow it in there as long as the mods see it and they're like, oh, it's okay. It's not horrible.
Well, I would like them to add like a Corthus course, maybe like an Ishgard, not Ishgard, a Ruby Sea course or some sort of like Far East course, and then I don't think they can do a Shadowbringers course without breaking the lore a lot, so it's probably not going to happen.
you know, it could be a
Maru
simulation.
Racing.
Maru Racing.
Maru
Racing.
Racing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maru.
Amaro Racing.
I wish, like, back to talking about the sort of the prevalency of racing. I wish that it was more popular, just because I remember when it first came out, it was a blast to do with like my friends. Like, we had a full group of people going into a race, and you could form a party and queue in together as long as all your chocobos were like the same rank that could queue in. And that I remember was some of the funnest times I had racing, because it was just so funny. Like,
yeah. Doesn't it sync? Maybe I'm imagining this, but didn't they add like a sync down or something like that?
There is an open division. It gives you like the lowest possible rewards, but yeah, you can. I'm not sure if actually. I thought I remember something like that, but I've never tested it, so I don't know, Frosty.
Okay. Because I thought there was some way that they made it to where it was a little bit more accessible for people to play together. Because that was a horrible situation where everybody was trying to play together at the same time, but you got people like Chyea. One of your friends is Chyea, who's already maxed out day one, and then you're like, holy crap, I can't play with my friend anymore because he's a big nerd, and I just logged on.
Yeah, I don't think it does it when you queue in with randoms, but I think that if you're in a party, they may have added something like that, but I've just never used it because I don't have any friends that play the game.
Well, they're online right now. They can check the Duty Finder, and it should be in Duty Finder open category. But
yeah. We're relying on chat so much right now. Maybe they'll come through. But no, I don't know. I think that. What was the other issue that people were complaining about? It was like the chest, and I think there were the upset situation where people were using meteors.
Meteors.
Oh, yeah. I mean, meteors
like the blue shell.
Yeah. It's an AOE blue shell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it's like, why even get in the front if someone's just going to meteor me? But then they could probably just add a toggle to turn it off in competitive mode or something. I don't know.
So that's part of the fun. You gotta keep it in there.
And there's the stars too.
Yeah, the like, super mode or whatever.
I don't even like Hero Tonic or something.
Yes,
I've always just thought of them as superstars, because that's what they are.
Mario Kart. Yeah.
Very good.
I have a problem with the Choco Meteor though, a little bit, just because when you get hit with it, at least with the build that I have, the like super sprint build, you just are wrecked. Like, you can't.
You just lose.
You gotta keep going.
You just lose after that. Like,
that is typically going to be your problem with super sprint builds, is stamina, because there's other options. Because there's a lot of other options that like give you better stamina security. Like, I run dash and cure on my current one. And the dash is nice because it's just 3 seconds of do not consume stamina.
I remember I think a lot of the times it was dash and cure, and then when I got my Max Chocobo, I was like, I'm just gonna do super sprint so I can just press one button and win.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that was like the ultimate goal, was to just get it
as easy as
automated, almost.
I am a little puzzled by the fact that they added super sprint at all, because I don't know if you guys remember, but I want to say like one of the first updates they did to the game was like an anti-AFK, because there were people who were just like racing again and again and like going away from their keyboard and like using that to get MGP while they do other things.
Yeah.
And like what they did for that is they made like last place give you almost nothing. And then suddenly they had super sprint, which is like
you're never going to get last place, right?
Yeah, you can now AFK again.
Yeah.
Seems really strange to me.
You have to control it a little bit still, so you don't get body blocked by a chocobo.
I didn't know there was body blocks, to be honest with you. I felt like they were always going through each other. But maybe I just
you can definitely get stopped by some chocobo butt for sure.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, do you feel like if they wanted to reintroduce Chocobo Racing, there's a better way than how they have introduced it?
I think that the system with leveling is pretty poor, if I would say.
Okay.
Just because like it's like the gameplay loop of it is kind of weird. So you get your chocobo, right? So you have your fresh chocobo, and you level it. I think you have to level it to rank 40 before you can retire to breed it. And that's like a decent amount. And by the time you get to 40, you actually have like your ability, you have some stats so you don't feel totally useless. But then you have to retire it and then breed it, and then you start at 1 again, and then you have nothing again. And then it's like you just don't it's like not rewarding in the way that I would think it should be. Where you work towards something, and you pass down some of the stats so your like new baby chocobos a little bit better, but most of the time it's worse than like your chocobo that retired, right? So it kind of just feels bad.
Well, it ends up better, but it starts out worse.
It starts out bad.
Yeah.
I guess what I mean is like by the time you ramp up and you're like, oh, I'm winning. For me at least, I remember when I was leveling and grinding out chocobos, I wouldn't really get first place until I was like rank 30-ish. And by then I'm already past halfway done. And so then it's retired, and then I just start losing again. So I don't know.
I think go ahead, Chyea.
I think that maybe if they had to reintroduce it or make it updates to the game mode, that the breeding would take less of a influence on the gameplay loop, like Shili was saying, because the breeding once you're like have a perfect chocobo, you never want to breed again. You're just completely done. So if they do update that, maybe they'll keep the current breeding system and then just work on something from that, like feed them better food and they get stronger. Don't have to breed them.
You know, to be honest with you, I hate the fact that once you retire your chocobo, you can't use it again. It's like I went through this adventure going through winning all these races, and I'm like, see you later. And you're just done with that chocobo. They're just like there for breeding purposes. I get attached to things that I work with a lot. So like, you know, mounts, anything, well, not mounts in the game, not mounts, but you know, when you have a companion in some way and you're going through like this thing together, I don't want to just like I name my chocobo like, oh, Frosty, this is the Frosty chocobo. It's perfect. Everything else, I don't want to just get rid of him at the end of his racing life, right?
Frosty, you want to know what
when you turn them into go away, they just sound sad. It's a bad feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Frosty, you want to know what I still have in my inventory?
Huh.
Every single chocobo that I've ever raised, even ones I've fully breeded, I cannot get myself to discard them.
Wow.
But they're gone,
Me
man.
too.
They're just there's pieces of paper now.
But I know, but I don't want to get rid of them.
They're my pieces of paper.
It's sad. I wish. So what would be ideal for me is that you don't really retire them ever. You just never go through that process. Maybe you get a breeding certificate for them or something, but you don't retire them. Like you can still race with them. Like, oh, let's go back like the good old days. Old number 1 chocobo, and you can go and do some races or something. And what would also be great is if you made a perfect chocobo, since it takes a lot of work, you could sell them on the market board.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Or sell at least a breeding permit of them.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So that someone could breed like their own good.
Take your chocobo out for stud. It's perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
You're a genius, Frosty.
I think so, because it would encourage people to breed, you know, it's a one-time use certificate or something, but it would encourage people to actually do it because there's some sort of financial gain in it.
And then hopefully, like when they breed it, they get to see a picture of your chocobo in all its crazy barding and colors, and be like, "Oh, what the hell am I breeding my chocobo?"
Yeah, like a breeding certificate. Yeah, just a one-time use breeding certificate. That would be great. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, that's an amazing idea. Imagine if like you could sell off your like baby chocobos, like you just breed. It's like this one.
Great.
This one's a winner. I promise. Like.
Maybe it might think people like just then not go through this themselves. They just have the chocobo oligarchs, the chocobo aristocracy, just, like eating on the chocobo.
Yeah.
So
I'd say the only issue they'd have to like resolve if they did that is it's pretty easy. Like I have a male and a female chocobo, which both have max stars and are pedigree 9. I could just 3D print those, you know?
Well, here's the thing. Like, you get the one breed, and then you're done. You get the one, like, certificate, and then they can't ever breed again.
Oh, from
Like,
your
Yeah, well,
time
maybe you can't ever sell it again, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you mean.
Even then, I could just make more, like...
Well, eventually, like, you start back up, and you have to get them to the breeding age, and every time you get them done until they're at their breeding age, you get a reward for getting them to a breeding age at some point.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah. Because I
And
think
then you can sell their rare colors too, and make it easier to get the color you want.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring back Chocobo
sort
Racing
of go
now.
back to the other question, like my take on it. I definitely agree that like more linear progression makes sense. Like if they had, like if they revamped the stat formula so that like maybe pedigree gave you flat but like starting bonuses to stats so that you started maybe a little bit lower than you were, that sort of thing. There's a lot of other like awkward things about it too. Like once you get to like a pedigree 8 like 7 or 8 chocobo, you start getting into R300 like before you've invested in like before you're on a bird that you actually want to invest good food in and stuff. And it can be hard to win there when you don't have that investment. Like you are slower than all the other chocobos. You have less stamina than all of them. It's just hard.
Yeah.
It does definitely feel good though once you do get your perfect chocobo and then you just start actually winning. You're like
Yeah, and then you just do it for MGP every once in a while. Is it so? I know going through and getting the achievements and the challenge log and everything else is pretty good. I mean, is that worth anyone who has a perfect chocobo who could go out there consistently
the challenge logs are 100% worth it. If I remember right, it's like I think even the very first one, which you can do without even like breeding at all. I think you can just do with the chocobo you get by default. It gives you like 15k or more. It's like a lot.
That is a lot.
There's one for like racing like 3 times. There's one for like winning once. Like they're all
they're really easy.
They are very quick to get on a weekly basis for sure.
Free MGP.
That's
easier
how
than more remaining.
So I guess what would be more interesting to me is that even with MGP and everything else, if they made the rewards tied to, Chocobo Racing, like you can only have certain rewards, like they do with PvP, where they have that, mount or gear every like season or something. Maybe have a season of Chocobo Racing.
I think they should tie up the achievement and have them constantly there. Like seasons of Chocobo Racing seems frazzling.
Yeah, it seems
a little too much.
Seems like a lot.
Okay.
But I could get behind the idea of having like more rewards behind Chocobo Racing because besides the MGP and all that, which is what started my journey with the Chocobo challenges, is I realized that it was also the only way to get that like Chocobo hat, like the one you're wearing.
Yeah.
It's like the only way to get that. Whereas the only people that had it besides from Chocobo Racing, it was a 1.0 item. And so I was like, I want that. And that was also a big motivator.
Just think how easy it would be to add Chocobo-related stuff. There's like the yellow Chocobo suit, but black Chocobo suit, red Chocobo suit,
Give us more
Chocobo suit. Like, come on.
Yeah.
There's like 100 different variations of Chocobos.
Yeah.
I would want any reason to Chocobo race more, but at this point there are none.
Yeah. It's tough. And I feel like they could easily try to bring this. So let me read this in full. I did pull it up because I wanted to read it out. So this was in the media tour, I think May 2019. And so one of the questions I asked to Yoshida was, all right, my next question, maybe make it a very light question this time. One thing that hasn't received many updates and people are curious about is Chocobo Racing. Do we expect anything in Shadowbringers to add on new maps or anything additional to Chocobo Racing? And this is what Yoshida said. So with content such as Chocobo Racing, there are team members on the development team that mention, yeah, it'd be nice if we could update it soon. But with Gold Saucer, and we mentioned this about PvP, new content and updates are planned for 5.1. Only because when an expansion is released, players will rush to get to the main scenario quest and get those done. They need to level up the main job, kind of explaining, just a side note here, kind of explaining why they don't introduce it right at 5.0. They need to level up their alt jobs, they need to level up the Cypress of Hand, land, crafting, gathering, and then jump into raid, and that's kind of the general flow that they've been serving, so no one's going to do Gold Saucer. So that's why we want to have them focus on that content at the launch. Let me just make sure, sentiment, again, to reiterate, there is a sentiment among the development team to want to upgrade elements, not specifically to Chocobo Racing, but there is a desire to update things for our players. There's one issue, though. The person who works for Chocobo Racing is just one person, and he had to actually move up in the team. So now he's working on raid content, and he's working on those. Is exactly what he said. So if we were to have him upgrade at Chocobo Racing, we'll have to pull him out momentarily and have someone else handle the development of raid content, which could be problematic. So I think we need to find somebody who could take it on and sort of pass the torch before we could decide on making updates. So with that response from me is that they had no plans at all to update Chocobo Racing, and they didn't have anyone that was in that spot. So, and that's at the end of Stormblood when I got that answer. So, I don't know what to say after getting that kind of response from back then. I think that we might be lucky in 6.0 to have some sort of update, but it seems like they just stopped.
To be a very dedicated developer out there that can help us.
Yeah.
We need our hero. Sorry.
We do.
He's someone.
Like we just need one person to go in. It is kind of amazing that one person developed the entire Chocobo Racing system, right? We're talking about breeding, the actual racing, and I guess kind of all the names. I think Koji probably did the names. If I had to guess, that he made the names like Apocalypse Later and things like that. So yeah, I think love this. It's pretty great. But I would have to say that if they brought it back, I'm going to spitball a little bit here. If they brought it back, but they made it fit the netcode a little bit better, do you think that it would take off more? And by netcode, I mean, like the kind of delay with everything. They have to kind of do things more turn-based or less involved, right?
I think that they can keep Chocobo Racing as it was, but they need to add rewards that people want.
Okay, so you're going off rewards.
Yeah.
I think that too.
Yeah,
more than anything.
Rewards are big incentive for all Gold Saucer things, because when you really break it down, all Gold Saucer like things, they're not all like popping, right? Like
no. I guess I'll ask you guys this: the arenas. Yeah, I guess there's somebody always ready to go and do those little events, right? That's what you're talking about, the every 15 minutes events?
You mean like the Slices Right and like the stuff like that? Like those are fun and like they're pretty short. But like Chocobo Racing it's a chunk of content.
It's like 2 minutes though. It's like 3 minutes.
To race one Chocobo, but to get like a Chocobo like up to speed or everything like that, it takes time. It's true. Like a big grind.
It's true.
But for my opinion on this, or rather, every 0.5 patch at the end of every patch, expansion cycle, so the next patch is coming up, they usually add something big side content-wise. Like, I think in 3.5, they added triple triad tournaments, and in the previous one, in Stormblood, they added Mahjong, Doan Mahjong, to the Gold Saucer. So in this upcoming patch in whatever 3-4 months, they should add another Gold Saucer event. And Chocobo Racing, like it hasn't been updated since Lord of Verminion, so Lord of Verminion, Chocobo Racing should be one of those too.
So you're just saying right now that you think in the next patch there's a chance.
I'm thinking that based on the pattern and the SE devs love following the pattern.
Yeah.
The other end of expansion patches has had a big addition to the Gold Saucer. So it was released in the ARR in 0.5 patch. In the Heavensward 0.5 patch, they had the triple triad tournaments, or Battle Hall rather. And in the Stormblood one, they added Mahjong, which are all big chunks of improvements. So in this one, we can probably expect something that's another either game or addition to a game.
I don't want any more games for Gold Saucer right now, unless if they're going to add like Blitzball. Dude, they're not going to do it. I asked Yoshida about Blitzball too. And that was like a little bit before, and he was just like, well, I have no clue how we're going to do it. That was his answer.
Even if they add stuff to like Chocobo Racing in terms of just adding more challenges, I think that'd be a great increase, for at least a couple months for people going to go play Chocobo Racing. Yeah. The challenges were the most fun part of Chocobo Racing. I love the challenges.
Adding MGP rewards also ends up making the Gold Saucer a lot more popular for a while. like that
Yeah,
make it.
they have like a 4 million mount, like some sort of like 4 million MGP mount. People would go crazy over that.
Yeah.
I like it. I'd farm for that.
Yeah.
I think that Chocobo Racing, out of all of the sort of grindable ways to get MGP, is the most fun for me, at least.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't really like doing triple triad because you have to use your brain, and that's hard. And like, and Chocobo Racing's nice because you can kind of it's a nice, chill, relaxing content thing you can do to grind out MGP. If you need to grind out MGP for something, I think a really fun way to do it is to put up some Netflix, your race.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's fair because you're not racing against anyone anyway, so what does it matter?
I mean, even if you are racing against people, it doesn't really take that much. Like there's
if
only
you're
so
a
much you can
sprint
do.
build, right? If you're like a full-on sprint build.
Well, even if you're not, there's only so much you can do. You can press W and release W.
It's true. You go left and right.
Yeah, left and right.
You jump occasionally.
And then you hit space bar immediately, or whatever your button is to hit it. 1 or 2 or 3.
I do get very excited when there is like a random person in my race. I'll like sit up in my chair.
Be like,
all right.
Because it means a lot to win that, right? Yeah, it feels like you're finally all that work's paying off. Can I beat someone else who does Chocobo?
Yeah, can I beat this other human?
But yeah,
more fun too because they're not a bot that's always going to do the same thing.
Although
go ahead.
But perhaps the most evil way they can increase participation is to put like triple triad cards on Chocobo Racing. So the triple triad community is a lot bigger than the Chocobo Racing community, and I'll be like, oh god, now we're forced to Chocobo Race for our triple triad cards.
I want to talk about triple triad just as a side tangent, but one more tangent real quick for people who don't know. We did a cosplay episode like a year or so ago, and we made these Chocobo Helms with Chyea, who's in chat right now. She taught us how to do it, me and my wife, and so we put these together. This is the one my wife made, which is clearly good, and this is the one I made, which is clearly bad. But that's where this helmet came through. I want to give her a quick shout-out, because I wouldn't have it if I didn't have that show with her. And the other part of this costume is just a chicken costume. If you guys are curious what I created. What?
I like that. Cute. That's what I said.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It makes me feel better about my life.
Do you guys realize? Do you guys realize that there's in Eorzea there's chicken and chocobos because you can make the chicken thighs, the smoked chicken thighs now.
Yeah.
And there's also chocobos. So like, are chickens just small chocobos, or are they actually chickens?
That reminds me of like everybody out there who names their chocobo like KFC or some similar thing. Oh,
yeah.
Your chocobo carries you everywhere, and you want to fry them.
I mean, they eat chocobo in Dravidian hinterlands. They hunt them down and they eat them.
I tried my best to go through that area without ever killing a chocobo. Okay.
I don't think you need to,
go ahead.
I don't think you need to kill any for MSQ, but there are some fates where you have to kill chocobos.
No.
What about the red meteor stuff? Did you not do that?
I haven't been to whatever.
Well, no. There was an event. What was the? There was a fate that first started.
Oh, yeah, the one with the first red chocobos. Yeah, I did that.
Yeah,
I didn't like it, but I did it.
Well, according to your canon, you just knock them out and put them to rest somewhere, like just lie down and wake up. Yeah.
So let's talk about triple triad just a little bit here, because Gold Saucer, Triple Triad, Chocobo Racing, it all came around the same time, and it was also a big thing. Triple Triad failed with tournaments pretty hard because people just cheesed it after the first tournament. It was just cheese. It's just nothing but cheesing with alts, and that's just what it is. Go ahead.
I think that the tournament setup they did now with the all draft mode is actually pretty good.
Is it?
The tournament that they did this patch, it's actually pretty fun because you don't get to use you get to. I don't know if the draft is common knowledge, but it's like you choose certain cards for your deck, and everyone gets like a different draft pool. So you don't get to go in with the cards that you collected. You just get cards that they give you an option of, and then everyone goes in the tournament with those cards. And so new players and old players have the same set of card pool they can go in with.
Mm-hmm. But the The tournaments aren't like very, when they happen, it's not like, oh, I have to win this or it's over. It's like, oh, I'd like to win this because I get good rewards, but you get 2 hours later, you get another tournament, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a lot better than the first. I think the first implementation was once every 2 weeks, so a lot of people felt, they have to get it this time because then it won't come back for another month because it rotates every 2 months.
Right.
So it was a big.
It was 2 weeks, wasn't it? Wasn't it 2 weeks?
I think that they had a tournament every 2 weeks, and they had 4 rotating tournaments. So be week 1.
Oh, that's what you mean. Yeah. So okay.
So it would take 2 months for them to get back to the first tournament if they want to say like the lightning card.
Oh man.
Yeah, I actually never got into triple triad tournaments. It's too big brain for me. I'm small brain.
Neither did I. I honestly I did the bare minimum to get the bonus platinum packs, and that's it. I never really tried to go too hard on triple triad tournaments, but they were implemented a lot better in this patch than previously. So if anyone's having reservations on doing open tournaments, I think they're called open tournaments, that happen once every 2 hours, just go in. It's fun. It's actually it's a fun way to play triple triad.
So, Gray, were you going to say something there?
I was just going to say, Chyea in chat said, next time we're going to make a real life Chocobo, and that reminded me of that April Fool's thing that they did the one time.
What was it?
You guys remember that? Where they were saying that they have real life Chocobos.
Oh yeah, with the app or something? Was that with the app? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. Right. It was an app, and they had the guys in the lab coats breeding Chocobos, but they were actually chickens.
Oh yeah. That was amazing, man. They've you know what? Lords of Verminion was an April Fool's joke, so maybe that was an April Fool's joke too. That's going to come to life.
I mean, I still have a soft spot for Verminion. I think that there's one guy on the dev team who's making those Verminion special abilities for every minion they release. Every minion in the game has a special Lord of Verminion ability, and there's one guy just coming up with those abilities. And I respect him.
So
I know,
it's copy paste.
Unique.
It's
they're all different. But this guy's just sitting there with his huge brain, just thinking about how to get the game.
That's copy paste. It has to be. A lot of them just have the same abilities, don't they?
No, I remember looking at them recently, and I was looking at just new minions from Shadowbringers, and their ability names, they have names that are unique to the minions and stuff. It's kind of wild. I never really messed with Verminion either, but
and someone does triple triad updates too, right?
Yeah, they changed the way that the triple triad decks can be built, so new players who come in triple triad can make more powerful decks faster. You don't have to flex on.
No, I mean every time a new patch comes out, they're oh, there's 5 new cards, right?
Oh yeah. They usually stick them onto to the raid boss. The Eden boss has a new raid card, and they just tie it in with the story. And I think it's neat. Triple triad card collecting is something that I've never really found frustrating. I just think that's a nice side quest, side event thing to do.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel so. I'll let you know just real quick again on this tangent with Triple Triad. Triple Triad was going to be my esports game. When it was coming out, I was just going to be I am going to be the Triple Triad guy. I'm going to make a guide for it. I'm going to sit there. Anyone who wants to talk about I was going to be the Gaius Gray of Triple Triad, right? I was going to be some amazing Triple Triad player that just knew all the little tricks and would never lose, and he always got the right combos and the pluses and the minuses and all the great things. Then the cheesiness with the tournaments happened, and I lost all heart, and I was like, fuck it. I'm done. So instead of me doing MogTalk all the time, I'd be doing all the triple triad stuff. I guess I chose the right direction. I guess I went the right way with that. But there are triple triad websites out there. There's some really good ones out there, I believe.
And there's a couple of really good trackers that you can import what cards you have, and they'll tell you, how to get the next cards, the rarity, everything like that. It's good resources.
Do they have a triple triad solver out there somewhere?
I've never seen one, but I'm sure that there's some GitHub out there with a triple triad solver for best optimal play.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be specific to a particular NPC though, right? Because each one has a different set of cards.
Well, I mean, you got 3 open. You could throw the 3 open of the opponent in there and maybe get good guesses on what you need to do or something like that. Yeah.
Sure. Although I do remember maybe I'm misremembering, but there was like a time where you could play Tataru for the lightning card. This was way, way, way back in. So
I remember that. I did that.
Yeah, so I remember people were making solvers for that one, but that was ancient history. I don't remember ever using one or anything like that, but I do remember that was like everyone wanted the lightning card, and Tataru was the only way to get it. So everyone was trying to figure out a way to consistently beat her.
Yeah.
I think it was
I
right
don't know
before the
if I have
Heaven's Ward.
I don't know if I have that.
The lightning one? I thought that was mostly like a one of
It
those.
was a tournament. It was a tournament reward, but it could way back when Heaven's Ward was about to launch, you could get it from Tataru, but then they moved her, so you couldn't get it from her anymore.
Oh, yeah, I may remember that.
Tataru was playable as a triple triad opponent for like 4 consecutive patches, and her card pool kept changing. So Lightning was on her first iteration of her card.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you guys this. Hey, we'll still go Triple Triad for just a second more. What is the most optimal way to play Triple Triad? Is it really just getting those corner spots every single time, and that's really it?
It depends on the NPC you're playing.
Well, I mean, people overall, just playing other players, just general rules.
I have no tips for that. I am not a triple triad deep brain.
I am not either.
I barely touched Triple Triad. Like right when it came out, I'm just so Final Fantasy 14 is actually the only Final Fantasy game I've ever played. So I never like had the attachment to like Triple Triad and all that stuff like people did. I like collecting the cards, but I don't really play.
I like collecting the cards too. Collecting the cards is half the fun, and then reading the extra lore that they put on the cards that isn't anywhere else. There's so much lore on the cards that they don't show anywhere else.
Yeah, I like that too. I pop in there once in a while.
Okay. So I'm still looking. No one's been able to find it yet.
But the picture for the flying.
Yeah, but
maybe this is the Mandela effect, and we're all just mass hallucinating.
No.
It's real. I know it's real.
So I looked back, by the way. I just did a quick Google search on it, and I found a Reddit post. It had 3 upvotes, but it discussed something like that. And it was saying, I hope we get new tracks for Chocobo Racing by at least 3.1 or 3.2.
Aww.
And then the top comment was, there probably will be. It only makes sense.
Oh no.
I think I saw that post when I was looking, and it's like a 5-year-old post, right?
It's 5
like
years old. It's 5 years old. And and then it says stuff like, I hope they spiced it up by offering more rewards. So people participate. I think they added in a random gift boxes for finishing first or second. It could help.
That would be a really good idea, actually.
Yeah, and then increase the quality of the box, bronze, silver, gold. Kind of, I guess, like what they do with Triple Triad. And also the drop rate as you go up in circuits. Boxes could include anything from MGP, Tier 2, Tier 3 food vouchers, Platinum, Triple Triad packets, minions, gambler gear, etc.
There should be minions. Like, when you play Feast, you get a chance to get a minion, the Fenrir Pup. When you finish a Chocobo race, chance to get a minion, Chocobo racing.
Yeah.
Think about it.
I think that should be there. And it said, I also hope they add a way to die by Chocobo. My shit brown bird makes me sad, and I will.
Oh no!
It's the only option since I'm rank 8, and I'm about to make my perfect Chocobo.
I would love to see them revamp that system. It's so much harder to get like what you want out of it than it is like your companion Chocobo.
Yeah.
I basically accepted that I just wasn't going to be able to choose the color of my racing Chocobo. Because you can't.
Yeah, you really can't.
Like,
even if you happen to buy one that has the color you exactly need, you only have a 50-50 shot of getting that color, and you only have one chance to breed rental Chocobos.
So
it's not very friendly. It really isn't.
The last comment, by the way, and a lot of these accounts are deleted, so I don't know what happened with their accounts, but it said, Yoshi P mentioned before that we may get to see flying Chocobo racing tracks in Heaven's Ward. Easier to do and all. Whether that was serious or just talk, who knows? So that's
real.
Someone else out there has heard it.
If it's on the internet, it never leaves because nothing leaves the internet. But
yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna keep searching here for it and see if I can find anything. But it's so, I might start doing that for other things in the show that we do. just go back and look at old comments about things, about different game modes.
Yeah.
Just see all the sad stuff that I wish I could go back there and just say, don't put emotion into it because you're just gonna feel bad.
Honestly, I was looking for a thread a few days ago about predictions on the final boss for Eden, and this was back when Titan came out. This was back over a year and a half ago. And people were like, "What could be the final boss of Eden?" And there were some pretty wild guesses. All of them were wrong.
Oh yeah, no, we pretty much had it down. I think I don't know. I didn't know if when Titan was out, I wasn't like, oh, it's going to be Eden. But I think after the end of the Shiva tier, I was like, yeah, it has to be Eden. There's no way.
It was more obvious after Shiva.
Yeah. I'm going to keep searching for this. If someone in chat finds it, let me know. But I feel like if he mentioned it, it had to be before August 2015. So I know that much.
I feel like we're definitely only going to be able to find this picture from the actual live letter where they show the picture.
We have to go to the mods, yeah.
No, so there's a lot of places like Gamerscape, and there's other websites who make articles on all these different things, right? And when a live letter happens or something else, they're like, this was mentioned here. And so if it was in a live letter, we may be able to find it somewhere on one of these news sites.
I just remember it was a sea of clouds looking map, and that there were balloons that kind of marked the edges of the track.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of in the Feast map where they have the balloons for the teams on the side.
Right.
They kind of like that. It was like that.
If my mind's eye is recalling it, there was a chocobo in the center, and then there was a Moogle balloon in the top right hand corner. So if anyone can remember something like that, and you have any leads, just link it to us.
Yeah. So since I'm
great lost flying map of Chocobo.
It was in development at some point, or at least the concept was there in some way. I'm going to go ahead and bring up Blitzball again because this is another question that I asked Yoshida, and I feel like it might be interesting to just know about that and revisit that. This was on March 31st, 2018 was when this was posted. And my question was just, where is Blitzball? That was literally my question. And Yoshida said, there are 2 plans drafted, but it's currently still pending. One idea is to recreate Blitzball just like it was in Final Fantasy X. I'm sure there are lots of people out there who want this, but I can't shake my concern that people would get tired of this after playing through it just once. That's because for a form of playable content in an MMORPG, one playthrough takes a long time. We can reward Allegan tomestones, but if the player wants to gather tomestones, they would run something more time efficient. Then let's say we implemented a designated swimwear, but once the swimwear incentive is gone, people won't play it anymore. We know from experience that something that may be fun as a game does not necessarily work within an MMO. The other idea is an MMORPG like Blitzball, where you recruit NPCs from various regions and create your own team. The player would then send that team out to matches and strengthen them through training. Kind of like Squadrons, I guess. Now that I think
it just sounds like Squadrons.
Yeah. If you could imagine existing games that involve coaching characters or simulation games, this would be the idea akin to those. For an MMO, I believe this game design would be better received. But in this case, I can anticipate feedback along the lines of, this is not Blitzball. So it's given me quite the headache. Do you have any good ideas? ? Sad face. This was a very, very long time ago, back in almost 3 years ago now. Almost 3 years ago that interview question was done.
I'm sure they'll add Blitzball eventually, but
I don't think they will. I think
they will. I mean, Blitzball's pretty popular, and they're generally adding stuff that people want that is popular. So I think they'll add it eventually.
Snowboarding in Final Fantasy VII, I think, is more popular. I think there are a couple of other things that they could finish up Chocobo Racing, right? And they could make that like a good staple before they moved on to the next thing.
I think in the devs' mind, Chocobo Racing is done. Like that's just my inclination. That's fine. Like they did a big system behind it.
Yeah.
So I think that before updating Chocobo Racing, they'll probably honestly, this might be blasphemous, but I would rather they make something like Beastmaster or some limited job more than Chocobo.
They're gonna make Beastmaster.
That would be fun.
It's done. That's done.
I actually enjoyed Blue Mage.
Yeah, I love Blue Mage. Blue Mage is so much fun. I love doing Blue Mage stuff.
I love the idea of solo content that's actually a little bit challenging. It could be more challenging, but
so if it was my choice to put resources somewhere, Chocobo Racing would be middle of the list. Like I'm not saying it's all the way at the bottom, but I would rather they do like Blue Mage, Beastmaster, maybe some other stuff, challenge log stuff rather than Chocobo Racing.
Okay. We're kicking you off the show.
No,
like go ahead, Shili.
Oh, I've been investigating. I found a forum post.
You found a forum post? Okay.
I found a forum post of when they first introduced the gold saucer.
Are you in Twitch chat by any chance?
Yes.
Can you post it there instead? Well, I need to. What's your? I don't know if you changed your handle recently.
No. It's Chili Bean.
Okay.
But
is it not worth posting?
It's not the post. Yeah. It's just an excerpt I'm gonna read.
Okay.
This is not the screenshot from the flying course.
Okay.
But I've just in my research, I found the post of the original summary from the community rep on the forums of the patch when they dropped the gold saucer, just the gold saucer, and they asked in the Q&A, it said, flying mounts will be introduced in Heavensward. Do you have any plans to hold Chocobo Racing in the air? It says, it's easier to create courses in the air than it is to make them on the ground. So personally, I would like to do this. And now we all cry because it's not.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so sad. To be honest with you, we're also given a lot of heat to Yoshida for saying things and they never come to fruition. But I'd rather him be more open about his thoughts and things like that and the ideas that he pursue instead of just being completely closed-lipped and never saying anything. So,
it's a hard spot though. Like if he says no, then people are going to backlash, and if he says yes, then people are going to expect it. So you can't really say both.
Yeah. Please look forward to more information. It's going to be. It's this thing.
I appreciate his thoughts on ideas, even though they might not come out. It's nice that he at least will give thoughts to things, even if they don't happen.
Yeah.
It's clear that they have some connection with the community, just in terms of what they want and the in jokes that the community has, like that Mora minion that came out this patch with ocean fishing. Like that means that they know about the cursed fish. So I'm sure that there's a beat on what people want for gold saucer, and then they'll do what's most.
Yeah, no, the community team does a wonderful job getting that information.
So I think that the gold saucer will go in directions that the community generally wants it to go.
Yeah. But I mean, there's also the limitations of balancing 3 different communities and finding the best answer for if they should do something or don't do something, and so.
That's true. I don't think Mahjong was an NA community staple, but I'm sure the Japanese one was.
It was if I could be a loser and use the word weeb, kind of staple that was introduced, and they knew that it would hit a lot of people in the market that play Final Fantasy 14.
People that I never knew played Mahjong, just came out of the woodwork when that came out. I was like, I would say they're lost. I don't even understand what I'm doing here. This isn't Hearthstone at all. And then 10 people that were in my FC were just yeah, I play Mahjong all the time. This is really cool.
Well, it was one of those things, just because you play Final Fantasy 14 doesn't mean you know what Mahjong is, but there's a lot of people who they love Mahjong, right? And so it's just one of those things that was just it was a putting together of heads of these people who would want to learn Mahjong, but never had the chance, right? You don't have one a lot of people don't have it in their house, where oh, I'm going to play it, or it's they can't find enough people to try to play it because it's so confusing if you don't know what you're doing. But once you get into it, yeah, but now they gave like a platform for all these people to try Mahjong for the first time with other people who knew what they were doing or other people who were trying to learn while giving somewhat of a decent guide to do it. And so Mahjong, it was perfect for Final Fantasy 14. I think it was.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty interesting too, because it's definitely my first exposure to playing it, and it was like having it in Final Fantasy 14 has been my only motivation to try playing it, and so it's kind of interesting in that way.
Yeah.
Like expose people to different games.
Although I've never touched it after the first few weeks, but because there's some people who are just really good. I
still don't understand how it works. Yeah. But I played it.
Well, the game mode that they introduced was really long. It took like 45 minutes for a game. But now they introduced the quick version, like the one that's half as long. So you can play a game in like 20 minutes, which isn't that long. It's still longer than all the Gold Saucer activities. But 20 minutes isn't that much.
Oh man, Starbuck was saying about Burning Crusade and the dance studio feature. I was a old school MMO Burning Crusade person, and I remember that completely.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
It never did happen.
Did they ever add Dance Studio? Because I remember hearing something about that a few years ago.
I don't know if they ever did, but
I don't think so. I got out of touch with WoW like years ago, and so. But there's a lot of people who are getting back into it. I don't know. Hopefully the new expansion is great. It's really, you know what, Blizzard, you pissed me off a little bit by doing all your stuff at the same time that Final Fantasy was doing all its stuff, so you ripped resources of people from me. But other than that, it's okay, Blizzard. I forgive you. Hopefully people are enjoying the expansion.
Probably deliberate.
I don't know if it's deliberate. I think it's all just like time schedules and trying to get stuff out by the end of the year. And
maybe.
It just all
out by
out
Christmas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, so Chocobo Racing. What else is there? Did we hit all the points? I haven't really been going down the list like I should have been, but I feel like we hit it a lot. We already went over rewards. We talked about the breeding system. We talked about kind of how it functions, the netcode, and everything else. So would you say right now, easiest ways to make people like Chocobo Racing and make it better and get people into it is rewards? Is that really it?
I think
probably the easiest way.
Okay.
Before we go into it, we should talk about the end game build. Someone in chat you never actually mentioned the optimal builds for Chocobo Racing.
It's true.
Oh, true.
Gaius, would you like to talk about in-game builds?
Sure.
Okay.
It sort of depends on like what your objective is. As I said, a lot of people like just spamming Sogly, and that's okay. It's up to you. But the others are not strictly worse now that they give you more MGP per and all that. But if you are just going Sogly, you probably want something that's going to get you in the front of the pack first. Ideally, this is talking abilities wise. So either head start or super sprint or dash also works too as a sort of pseudo start, although it's a little bit less reliable because AI chocobos have a nasty tendency to randomly strafe in front of you as you go out of the gate. But anyway, something that will get you a reasonable start and get you started either in first or second place, and then something that will help your stamina. That's generally what you're building towards. And I think on Sogly specifically, Head Start and Choco Cure are pretty popular, as is Super Sprint and Choco Cure.
Okay.
I run Dash and Cure, but I'm a weirdo.
I like Dash. So, I used that a lot when I was into Chocobo Racing back in the day. I
mean, it's very solid. Yeah, it gives you the nice thing about that is that I can use it on any course. Just at 3 seconds of not using stamina. If you don't know, the dash status basically pauses your stamina drain for that duration. And 3 seconds is a lot of time when you're running at maximum speed.
Right.
So it just gives you that edge that means that like in longer courses you can actually finish it out and get better times there. But That's generally the archetype. If you go double stamina, you're going to have way too much, and there's not really enough room in the way stat points work to compensate for that. I don't think generally. And like as for what stats you do, that sort of depends. Like super sprint kind of invalidates like 3 out of the 5 stats. Okay. So if you're doing that, you just want Shili. Stamina and I'm blanking on the other one, the other stamina one. Endurance. That's it. Endurance. Yeah.
So you last.
And then like I think a lot of people have said you have to have like at least 350 speed or something, but it's super easy to get. The maximum is 500. So you just get like at least 350 speed, maximize your stamina stats, and then nothing else matters because you're running super sprint. If you're going something else, you pretty much always want to max stamina and endurance and speed if you can. Acceleration is worthless. And cunning is... there's actually a common misconception about cunning because its in-game description is atrocious. It says it like implies that it makes it easier to handle your chocobo, which like makes people think that you turn faster or whatever. That's not actually what it does. What it does is it helps you run faster and suffer a lower stamina drop on like rough terrain. So it doesn't matter at all on Sagli. Sagli has like one very short stretch of rough terrain, which is the uphill. Rough terrain is generally uphill sections or water submerged sections. Okay. So there's a very, very, very short stretch at the beginning of Sagli that is rough terrain, but the rest of it is entirely, normal terrain. Costa has a lot of rough terrain because you're going through water and there's that big hill. And then obviously Tranquil Paths has that entire like swampy section. That's all rough terrain. So cunning is good if you want to do Costa or Tranquil or want to be able to do those.
I mean,
but other than that, you can dump it.
I gotta say, thank God we got you on.
We haven't even talked about the weather conditions yet.
Like, there's weather conditions. I forgot about that.
The weather.
Weather conditions have become a lot less influential. Back in the day, like there was this thing where, chocobos have weather preferences, and it was very commonly regarded that rough weather chocobos were better. I still, to this day, do not know, because the way it works is, if you have a fair weather chocobo, they will go like very slightly slower in rough weather. But the opposite does not seem to be true of rough weather chocobos. So rough weather chocobos will not seem to get much of a speed penalty, if any, in fair weather. So they actually patched this at one point, because when the game first came out, it was like, okay, if you don't have a rough weather chocobo, you should probably just rebreed, because a rough weather chocobo is just going to be better. They made the difference a lot less noticeable. I think it was 3.25 again when they overhauled all the other stuff. They made that differential better. My like pet theory is that rough weather chocobos like get a penalty to cunning or something when it's in fair weather. That's my pet theory, but it's like with all the server side stuff, it's very, very hard to test that sort of thing. So I have not ever been able to.
Okay. Is there anything else that I completely forgot about? Because weather was like a huge deal. Let's say this. Let's say that people after this episode, people are like, "Fuck, Chocobo Racing, that's amazing! I forgot all about it. I want to be like a Chocobo Racing pro." And then we have this surge of like thousands of people going and like they're racing and they're doing all kinds of Chocobo races. So when you queue up, you're queuing up in random maps against other people that are also breeding Chocobos, and they're being competitive against each other. So if we were ever in a situation to where you don't know what the map's going to be, and you don't know anything else that was going to happen, what's the best Chocobo build against going in random conditions and other people?
Well, my preference is I think always going to be Dash and Cure in that situation, because it just what I like about it is you can play very sort of reactive with it. You can just use the dash to get out of the gate faster, like if you're on Sagali.
Mm-hmm.
But on a like more like longer course, you can also save it and like try to not be in the front at first, and like use it reactively. Like if you get hit by a Graviball or something, you can basically negate it if you boost right away. So like you can use it for stuff like that. You can use it like once you can do the old thing where like you're completely out of stamina and your Chocobo is like heaving, and you just dash and you still are like going as fast as possible. I love that effect. It's just like a Chocobo going like, like going really fast. So yeah, you can do that. It gives you just a little bit of extra stamina economy, which lets you perform on Costa. But honestly, the way things are now, like if you're getting matched with players, probably at least 75-80% of the time it's Sagali, because someone in there specified a preference for Sagali.
Okay.
I think that playing against like actual people, if you were in a full race with all people, super sprint definitely not the way to go, because people will screw you over, and then you'll just be done. You'll have no stamina, and you'll get last place.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure. I think the sprint, the super sprint with the Choco Cure 3 would definitely. Wait, is it Cure 3 or Cure?
Cure 3. I've just been using Cure for shorthand. Yeah. Obviously, you should use whichever highest skills available to you. I think I think unlocked based on your challenge completion now.
Yes.
Which ones you can buy. And for some stupid reason, they still haven't added head start as a manual, which is very obviously an oversight.
Yeah.
They need to fix it, and they haven't for like 2 patch cycles.
They're getting around to it. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, the reactive.
Please look forward to it.
Yeah, please look forward to it. The reactive play for sure is definitely the best way to go if you're playing against people, because people are unpredictable and they'll actually use their items and things on you to try and get ahead. Whereas NPCs, they kind of just pick up their item and then use it.
Yep.
So holding onto your sprint, like you were saying, and then during the races you can get the ethers, right? Is that what they are?
The ether. That's the other thing about sprint, is that you can use it with ethers still. Although obviously you can use it with Cure, but.
So yeah, you could kind of like choose which one you want to use your ethers on, depending.
Okay. All right, so now that you guys all know, you can go out there and be super hardcore Chocobo Racer people and fight off the hordes of other people who are racing out there. I would be happy if I just knew that every game I had at least one other person in there. Right? You are always at least a couple of players in the match. I think I would be happy with that level of activity. I
wish I could know that before I accepted it, honestly. Like, you can only see the number of players until after you accept it.
Why don't they just introduce, like, hey, are you okay facing just NPCs, or face, competitive mode where you have at least one other person in there? Like, they just have a top like that.
That might never pop at late night hours. Like,
I mean, if it doesn't, you're still waiting on the thing. It's like PvP, right? you know what's in it when you're doing it. You're going to wait a while when you queue up. And it's not going to be, some hours are going to be worse, some hours are going to be better. But the fact is that you just want to play against someone else. And you can have one that's just like, I want to get in as quickly as possible. One that I want to wait until one other person queues up before I play.
And we're assuming there's like a level sync for your Chocobo, right? So if you start with the new player, you're different down. Yeah.
As long as there's a level sync, it should be okay. So I think that that would make my life so much better, just knowing that I go in there and I can say, like, I beat punks up in Chocobo Racing and just feel like good about that. Yeah. I will say there is a dedicated Chocobo Racing game coming out soon, or possibly coming out. There's rumors of it. But I don't...
Like a standalone game?
Standalone game. Yeah, because there was one back in the day. I can't remember what it was called. But
I haven't actually played it, but I've only heard of it.
Yeah, there's something about it. There's the Chocobo Racing game that was out there is maybe coming back on newer systems, but I would have to find it's probably just as elusive as our flying Chocobo screenshot that we will never find.
Yeah. I'm gonna do some digging. I'm gonna find it.
Okay.
And then you have to tweet it.
Yeah, tweet it out and tag us so we know it's been done. that itch has been scratched and we can just kind of put it away.
I'm actually going through the VODs. I'm going through the 3.2 live layer VODs.
You're going through the VOD.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. I think it's in the 3.2 live layer VODs.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay. All right. What else is there anything else with Chocobo Racing that we need to discuss or we'd like to discuss, or do we feel like that we've hit it for about as much content as actually exists for Chocobo Racing?
Chocobo Racing's great, and I just want to race some chocobos now. Honestly, I want to go to Segoli.
Yeah, just go to Segoli and race.
I wish that I was on Aether with you guys, because then we could do a race together. But
it's true.
Oh, that's right. You are primal.
I'm primal. I'm a primal baby.
One of the few. Actually,
Primal's pretty big. Primal's pretty big. There was like a census, right, a few days ago, and Primal was pretty popular.
I guess that is true. I mean, it is, but like, all the people that I talk to usually are like, on Aether.
Aether, yeah, but I mean,
I'm on Aether. That makes sense. Yeah, you know what? Just make a character on Aether that is dedicated to raising a new Chocobo for you, and it'll be a new Chocobo.
I actually thought about it because I have a character on Cactuar. My old Aether character. It was on Balmung, and then I free transferred it when they did the split. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about it. I was like, maybe I should start raising my Chocobo and race Frosty. And I was like, nah.
Just let me know. I'll log in, and we'll queue up and we'll play.
Yeah, we can. I'll help you finally perfect your Chocobo.
You know what? Maybe we should do this. Maybe we should all come together. And while I'm doing this, constantly readjusting my Chocobo helmet here. We'll come together and make a Chocobo monthly tournament. Yeah, Chocobo
I'd
race
be down.
tournament.
I'd be down for it.
And the winner gets like a Mog Station item. So it's like a monthly Mog Station item for the winners of Chocobo Racing. I should tape it. I should tape this to my head. And I just didn't really think it out as much as I should have before all of this.
I think it's perfect.
Thank you. I appreciate it. My wife does really good handiwork here. And I revel in it while doing this show. I will say the next one is the Makote episode. Not the next episode, but the next incentive one. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a male Makote because I'm
pretty sure.
I will still wear makeup and everything else, but I'm not gonna expose the skin. I can't expose the skin. That's involved.
You can ask Chyea how to do it, hit your lips like his characters.
Hey, Chyea, you gotta put the thing on, the headband on.
Actually, okay, so.
Oh yeah, you have quiz. You have a quiz. You were gonna do quiz questions, Chyea.
So unbeknownst to Frosty, he wore his costume in mirth.
Okay.
But its curse holds to test him in his worth.
Okay.
If he wishes to remove his feathered panoply, he must answer these questions 3.
Okay.
I have 3 trivia questions, all about chocobos for you.
Okay.
And if you can't answer them right, chat can help. Chat can help because
okay.
they're pretty pretty obscure.
Good. Yeah.
You can't leave the costume. You're stuck in there forever.
I would be very sad. Work would be asking me questions every day, and I'd be like, just don't worry about it. This is life.
Yeah, you just have to deal with it. Yeah. All right. So first trivia question. Trivia question. What is the name of the chocobo you fight in the encounter Red Chocotober?
Red Comet?
Red Comet. You got it. Red Comet. Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right. 1 out of 3. Easiest one done. One done.
All right.
If you want to reset your personal companion chocobo's skill points, there's SP. What item do you defeat it?
Chat would have to help me out with that one because I just don't know.
Otherwise, he's shot forever.
I guess
Shili and Greg can help you too because they're also technically in chat.
Oh,
I
I
kind of.
actually can't remember this either.
You don't know? You don't know?
No,
Greg?
it's some sort of vegetable. That's all I know.
It is in fact a vegetable. Yes.
Is it an
I
onion?
only
Okay, no,
Okay,
but
okay.
I'll give you another chance.
Okay, Shili, what was your response?
I only know the one you feed it for more XP. I don't know the one you reset for resetting.
The one from XP is the Tavernarian onion.
Okay.
But there's one more that you can buy for GC seals or hunt seals that resets their skill points.
I'm gonna go with chat, and it's the pepper.
It is the pepper. It is the regained pepper. You got it. Okay, you're good.
Okay.
All right.
One
In
more.
the Heavensward MSQ, when you enter Ishgard, what's the first mount you get?
Wait a minute. So the Heavensward main story.
MSQ during the MSQ,
It's the Black Chocobo, isn't it? The Black Flying
It is the
Chocobo.
Black Chocobo
Yeah.
whistle. Yes, you get from the Ishgard stables. You're free. You can take off the
It's gone. It's gone. My hair's all messed up. Yeah, you had to make it easy for me, Rennie. Give me a break.
There forever. I mean, it would make his life too hard.
It would. But yeah, I appreciate that. If you want to ask a hard question, you'd have to ask Gaius Gray here.
I actually I was looking through hard Chocobo questions, but they're not that much more on Chocobos, honestly.
I mean, you could just get minute stats and minute little things every once in a while.
Well, I was going to ask, and this is probably too obscure.
Yeah.
That the creator of Final Fantasy, I don't know his name, God strike me down, but he got inspiration from an anime to make Chocobos. And I was going to ask, what anime would he get inspiration from to make Chocobos?
I don't actually
that's
know.
very
that.
obscure.
I don't know either.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So according to him, one of his inspirations for making Final Fantasy was Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, which is a Ghibli, it's a Ghibli movie. It was originally American. And in that series, in Nausicaa, they use something called horse claws, which are giant, gastronuses, giant ostriches, as their primary source of transportation.
Yeah.
So he got the inspiration for Chocobos, which were originally in Final Fantasy II, from that anime.
Okay.
Yeah, he made them yellow. They're originally black, but he made them yellow, so it became iconic like that.
And by the way, for your question about the creator of Final Fantasy, it's actually I don't know if I can say it right. Harunobu Sakaguchi. I said that.
That sounds accurate. Yes, that sounds right.
It's not. It's funny. It's not a name that's commonly said. When people talk about Final Fantasy, they talk about other people, like the music and everything else. But
yeah, but he was I think for the first 4 games, I think he was the lead developer, which is that's the impetus to start the whole series. So he did a great job.
Yeah. It looks like I'm just wearing a fuzzy sweater now. Yeah. It does, doesn't it? So just to let you know, this costs $30. It cost this outfit cost $30. The Makote one was much more expensive, but we'll see when that comes in.
Well, that's gonna be more hype than this.
Hey, business expense.
You have to wear the ears. You have to have the ears.
Oh yeah, I do need to make it a business. Yeah, I do have ears already and a wig. So
Yay.
I just need to get Kerr has to do my makeup, and then the outfit itself, and then we'll have that. I just have to wait for it to come in because it's not coming in from America, so it's a little bit more. It's difficult to get it in. The next actual episode of MogTalk is going to be about Melee. And we're going to be discussing Melee overall. So we're going to have a serious show next week. Although this is just a serious show. I don't know why you guys wouldn't think that this is serious. This is the serious show, most serious of the serious we've ever had.
I mean, we can tell from what you're wearing.
Yeah. This ain't something that's goofy. No rubber chicken kind of thing that we're doing here. Anyways, thank you guys for coming on the show. I think we kind of hit Chocobo Racing about as hard as we can. Unless if you think that there's something else we could say, but I think just please, Yoshida, give it something. Give Chocobo Racing something.
I'm sure it'll be
something.
There's one guy on the dev team who loves it.
Yeah, there has to be one. There's one guy who is in their heart, it's their baby, right? So at some point they'll be like, "Come on, just give it a map, just something."
Just give us the map.
We've been waiting on PvP for a map for quite a while, though, so I don't really know how fast that's going to happen.
Bring back Lichen Weed. Bring back like
They're gonna change. I think they're gonna change PvP up completely. To be honest with you, I think they're gonna have another revamp, but I don't know what that's gonna look like. Yeah, but it's gonna be a less serious PvP. I think is what they were talking about. But
my closing thoughts with the Chocobo Racing, kind of the gold saucer overall. So I just hope that like with the next expansion, kind of how you're saying, like once you get past like the first sort of opening patch, people are done leveling and first raids kind of out. If we just get like an overhaul to Chocobo Racing, just to make it more like, I don't know, accessible, more streamlined, linear progression, like we were saying. I think that would do a lot of good. And the ideas that you brought up earlier are really good too. Just like adding like a random like coffer if you get first, like get good stuff. Even if it's just, like in Bajra and Eureka, even if you have the coffer and you open it and it's just the little like confetti thing, that's better than nothing. Like, yeah, give me Chocobo confetti.
That would be awesome. Yeah. Gray, do you have anything else that you want to say here? Final thoughts?
I mean, I don't. No, I mean, I think we've touched on everything.
Okay.
Everything that I would change about it. I just want more reasons to do it. I've always done it because I've thought it to be fun in and of itself. So.
Okay. Yeah. Chyea, did you already say your words? I don't know if we had like a last statement from you. Or...
No, I think everything's been said. I enjoy Chocobo Racing. If anyone listening has some Chocobo Race, just go into it. You'll have a good time. And then start breeding the Chocobos, which is actually the real fun of it, in my opinion.
Yeah. I will say, by the way, Yoshida, if you want to hire me and send me to Japan to work on Chocobo Racing and other things like achievements for hardcore rating, all these things, all these ideas and all this stuff that we've been talking about for years, I will be happy to go there and help with your teams that I need a translator for. But it would be fantastic, The other things that I want to do is I want to do some just little messages here. This entire episode is only because of an incentive that was met during the World Race event that people were very generous to make happen. Chocobo Racing's always been like a thing that I say because it was always just like rating and Chocobo Racing. Those are two completely parallel things that you can, say, and then you cover a lot of stuff in between. And so it's always been a part of the show at the beginning. And doing this was nice. It was good to finally bring it to everyone, and I appreciate all three of you for helping me finally bring it to MogTalk as an official show for Chocobo Racing.
Anytime.
So excited.
Chocobo Racing episode 2.
When you tweeted it, I was like, actually happening.
It's actually going on. If they do updates for Chocobo Racing, we'll all come back on. And we'll just go over Chocobo Racing again. If it's a major update, if they change a timer somewhere, maybe not. But if it was something worth talking about, I'd be more than happy to do it again. But I would, before we go into the very, very last stuff, if you have any shout outs or anything you want to say about people who might want to follow you, if you want people to follow you, or if people, anything of that nature in general, just appreciation towards your friends, your spouses, whatever you want to do. And I'll start with you, Chyea, if that's okay.
Of course. You shouldn't follow me. I'm a hermit. If you need to talk to me, you can find me through Discord. Just search Chyea, and I'm sure she'll come up somewhere. If you want to follow someone in my stead, you can follow my girlfriend, Rini FFXIV, and she'll appreciate that. She's big on the Twitterverse. And if you ever need to contact me, you can contact me through her. I'm just going to be in my hermit.
Okay. She's your manager. Okay, I got you. Shili.
Hi. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I retweet lots of Final Fantasy content. Lots of people's art. I love retweeting art, and I don't really tweet myself that much, but when I do, it's usually of my cat. She's sleeping.
Yeah.
If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at ChiliBean8, number 8. And then my Twitch is just ChiliBean. I haven't streamed in a while, but I'm planning on getting back into it. I actually want to stream more Final Fantasy stuff, which was like the opposite of how I felt before.
Yeah,
if you remember.
I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I felt bad about that because I was like, oh no, that's not what I meant. I don't hate Final Fantasy. It's a hard game to stream.
Yeah, it's kind of tough.
Yeah. But yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Sounds good to me. All right, Gaius, the first time you've on this show, is there anyone you want to shout out? Anything you want to say before getting off?
Well, I'm probably even more of a hermit than Chyea is.
That's not possible. I don't count you to a hermit off.
Very hard time finding me. But I do have a Twitter as of 2 days ago. It's like gray_winged. It's a personal Twitter, so you may not like everything that I'm into. But if you want to follow me, you can. Okay. I also like casually stream Twitch, mostly our raids, and that's. I do want to say that again that our raid team has a somewhat crass sense of humor, so probably 18+ there.
That's most streams, to be honest with you. What is it? Is it Gray Wings or what? What's the
winged, like WINGED?
WING, and that for the Twitch handle, winged Gray Winged.
Yeah, it's my Twitter links to my Twitch, but on Twitch I'm Gray Winged without the underscore.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, cool. All right, well, thank you so much for coming on, Gray. Thank you so much, Shili. Thank you so much, Chyea. It's been an absolute pleasure having this show. To let everyone know, we will be having a quick little video afterwards, as normal, to thank Patreon supporters and everything else for meeting that incentive that they met on the Patreon. And we also will be doing a raid, so don't go anywhere. We will be sending you to somewhere. And next week, again, Melee episode. We have a couple of guests confirmed. I think we're waiting on one more, and we're going to be discussing all the different aspects of Melee. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's important to mention. I think that's it. I think we've hit it all. I will be streaming. I am doing normal streaming, so you can catch me on Monday as I am trying to go through E9S and Party Finder, if you want to do that. Because it's basically a big mess. It's just a huge mess the entire time.
You can do it. I believe in you.
Yeah, I believe in you. Yeah, okay. You got it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much again for watching, and I'm going to go and do my wave. Everybody wave and say bye.
Bye.
Stay safe, everyone.
Hello, everyone. For my Patreon video, I decided to humiliate myself even further by wearing the chicken head part that came with this costume. For those that are confused, at the end of every episode, I make a video personally thanking people who spend way too much money supporting this show. This week, the people in the tier of the MogTalk executive supporters are Akborning, which is actually a website that helps various aspects of the raiding community with guides and such. Lots to do with a lot of PvE. Then there's Dude It's Antonio, longtime friend and supporter of the channel, who helps actually mod the channel as well. Super Miyu, who is a developer of the Teamcraft website, which is an amazing place to go, whether you need something crafted or need just to get better at crafting. And last but not least, Tag, another great supporter of the show, who helps with the channel and various different things, such as gathering questions throughout the show. I would also like to thank all the supporters on Patreon, as those funds do go to help things like the World Race events that we do overall. But as always, this isn't currently needed for me to live day to day. So if you're deciding between a cup of coffee or supporting the show, please buy the cup of coffee. And with that, everyone have a wonderful rest of your year. And please hang tight for the credit reel and the raid that we're about to do. And dog says woof. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.